Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to welcome once again to another amazing session of the current affairs. This is a venture which we have embarked upon to let the students know what is happening all across the world, not only in India, and the pattern on which the UPSC is asking questions these days. It's become very unpredictable. So side by side, not only my purpose would be to just give you the current affairs, I would also like to see you put in effort. Some questions, some task I'll be giving you while delineating the current affairs, and I want you to make that effort, because if I feel it's like these days what is happening, current affairs, although they are available on each and every website, but that is simply what students do is that right before the exam or even during the preparation they just copy and note down the current affairs. But the thing is that current affairs need to be updated on a regular basis. For example, the topic which we are going to discuss today, first one of the topics will be dealing with wetlands. Now, not only will I be discussing what the topic deals with, what the current happenings are occurring, but also what question this year there were 2 or 3 questions pertaining to this topic. And moreover, because this conversation, biodiversity and all these resources, these biotic resources which we call in environmental science, these have become so important from the point of view of sustainable development. More and more, again we keep talking about this development. In essays also we enjoy writing this term. In every ending of the, if we are answering some question, we write this word. So what exactly, how the concept has to be applied, that we'll be talking about. So in a simple manner, first we'll discuss what is wetlands. One of my approaches, like we will be going when we are discussing wetlands. So first we have to we have to accomplish, or we have to establish the structure. Now this structure will also enable you to comprehensively write an answer in mains as well. For example, you will come to know as we discuss further. So first of all, what is wetland? Now the Ramsar Convention, which you might have come across this term, Ramsar Convention, and the World Wetlands Day, which is on 2nd February every year, and themes keep changing. So what is meant by wetland? Just a pond. If rainfall is occurring, and it's a puddle, the water gets collected somewhere, so that does not conform to a wetland. So the wetland exactly is areas of marsh, fen, peatland, where there is a natural there are artificial wetlands also, and permanent or temporary water. It can be fresh or brackish, salt water lakes, and the depth at which the low tide does not exceed 6 meters. Although this tide, the concept of tide, is beyond the scope of discussion right now, but you should know. Now here, when we talk about tide, straight away when you are reading this statement, you should immediately recollect or connect with the geographical concept of oceanography, which is also important in general studies, that what is exactly a tide and what is the phenomena. Later on, when we'll discuss the proper module in the geography, then we'll discuss. So this is the basic definition. When you are writing an answer, you need to be precise, in case whichever the general study subject may be, whether it be polity, whether it be history. If someone is especially in geography, you need to use those geographical terms. You cannot just write, okay, the water is even if you write this term. So each and every, this definition itself is made up of several components. That is, this is one, then we have the permanent, temporary, then we have fresh, brackish or salt. So this I have highlighted for you. Next, there is, now what is Ramsar Convention? It came into existence in 1971, intergovernmental treaty. Now often you might find in the prelims, UPSC prelims question, they give questions like, okay, consider the following statements about this following convention or any organization, be it any the Australia group, be it the non-proliferation treaty, and they can write, okay, whether it's a society, whether it's an intergovernmental treaty, whether it comes under the United Nations. So these small, every term, especially in a definition, that needs to be adhere to, and that needs to be concentrated, emphasized upon in a particular manner. Now, like I said, that I want you to exercise your brain also. So although I have told you which day is celebrated as the World Wetland Day, but when you hear Ramsar, you should know it's your responsibility to know that where this actual site is located. Now that I am not going to tell you, so you should, you know, if you don't know that, you should find out whether by Atlas or Google to hai. So this is your, and what was this year's theme? Sometimes what happens is we had questions such as we have encountered in the past also. We had encountered the Brundtland Convention, or we had encountered the Beijing Declaration. So indirectly what they pertain to, or what different themes is, it might not appear, this type of question might not, you know, be asked in UPSC civil services, but it can be asked in any PCS examination, CAPF examination, or CDS examination, all such kinds of examinations which are also competitive enough. So these things have become important. Then now we have discussed, like I was talking about the structure. So one part of the structure is complete, that is what is a wetland, then some features of wetlands in India, what is the you know, scenario in India and the world. So wetlands in India, globally they cover 6.4% of the geographical area of the world. Now straight away when we talk about the geographical area of the world, now NCERT, it is clearly mentioned, time and again we keep discussing what is the area of India. So you should now, it should be on your tips. Now this is the world, and this, when we talk about the, as far as India is concerned, ISRO or Indian Space Research Organization has determined that the wetlands are spread over 1,52,600 square kilometers, which is 4.63% of the total geographical area of the country. Now what I want you to clarify, if you don't remember, is what is actually the total geographical area of the country, because that also becomes very important from the point of view whether you are considering or studying the forest cover. For example, whatever that data is 24.62, or whatever tree cover, all these terms are in respect to the percentage of the total geographical area. So this is very important. Then again I have given you a task. Out of this figure, this 4.63% of the total geographical area, whose percentage is more, inland natural wetlands or coastal natural wetlands? This becomes very important, because of course natural wetlands by definition, it is not written that they have to be near coast or they have to be inland. So there is also distinction between the percentage or the amount of area that is classified underneath both these different categories. So this can easily be asked as a question in prelims, in any type of, you know, objective type of question. Then again, when you determine this, then the next point comes is which Indian state contributes the largest to this 4.63 or 1,52,600 square kilometers. It is very easy for me, I can easily tell you the answer, but if you determine this on your own, then you will see the benefit. In the long term, you will definitely remember it. You will never forget this fact. Then Ramsar Sites in India. Now this data I had actually prepared a while back. So at that time 5 more wetlands had been added, which I had also created a brief map, I'll show you. But recently 10 more wetlands have been added, so the total stands at now 64. Now these things you have to keep yourself updated with. It's not necessary to, you know the location of each and every wetland, or be that biosphere reserve or wildlife sanctuary or bird reserve or national park, but you need to have an approximate idea, because again wetlands and the location, there was a question in prelims, UPSC prelims this year, where the matching was to be performed, and you need to know the wetlands which was in, and since the wetlands are of international importance, they have to be, one needs to continuously make a list and keep updating it. And develop some technique. I'll be discussing it, some techniques in the future also, but they need to be aware of the locations. Okay, now again, wetlands, we had done the what, the where, the features. One important aspect which I have written in the box is the Montreux record. So sometimes what happens is, although we have declared a wetland under a Ramsar site, but now that wetland is getting disturbed, the biodiversity is threatened, or it is the species are endangered, that naturally ecological balance which was there in the wetland, that is getting affected. So according to that procedure, or according to that dimension, the wetlands which were in the Ramsar Convention, they are put in the Montreux record, so as to signify that that particular wetland or wetlands, they need to be, again, some drastic measures have to be taken, so that the conservation is taken, the natural ecological balance is restored in those wetlands. So currently, again, your task will be that currently in India 2 wetlands are there which are in the Ramsar Convention also, but they are in the Montreux Accord also. So you have to find those 2 wetlands. So if you want to know the definition also, exact definition I have given you here. Again, task which I have already told you, that find out the Indian wetlands originally part of the Ramsar Convention which have been placed in the Montreux record. Now again, some more data which is very important. I am just not copying, pasting, or just imposing a lot of data on you. These are because sometimes, again, UPSC is very unpredictable, and even in the PCS also. So these questions. So the countries with the most Ramsar sites, United Kingdom, and the largest area is Bolivia. Now when United Kingdom, everyone knows, but again, United Kingdom, what is Great Britain, what is United Kingdom, what is England, what is Scotland, this is another, this can wait. But when Bolivia comes into mind, immediately the continent should come into your mind. It would be good if you know the capital also, but again, you have to question such as whether Bolivia is a landlocked country or not. Questions such as these can come. In South America, there are 2 landlocked countries, and you need to know whether Bolivia is one and what other countries are there. So this is again your small task. Again, you can see that some countries, important fact like Canada, Chad, Congo, Russian Federation. Now why would these have so much area under wetlands? Of course, because these Chad, Congo, industrial development is not very much, and Congo lies in the equatorial rainforest belt. So it is highly, although all these countries, European countries, China, and they have started scavenging for resources in these areas, but still, again, Canada and Russian Federation, some areas are still inhabitable, and the wetlands, they occur in their pristine condition. So now we come to the important part from the point of view of mains. So why the focus on wetlands? Now these are some of the data. You have to, there's no other option but to write, because whenever you are writing an answer, whether be the essay, GS, or whether in an optional, if you are just writing, okay, wetlands are they do this, so that focus, some organization, what they have said, like we continuously keep reading about IPCC, but actually what we never study the IPCC data, we never focus upon that. So the IPBES, that is the Intergovernmental Science Policy Platform on Biodiversity and Ecosystem Services. So he identified that wetlands is the most threatened ecosystem. So wetland is the most, then this impacts 40% of the world's plant and animal species. It's not that the water is actually standing there 6 meters at low tide. So actually, if you consider, like we have the Koleru Lake wetland, so it is often in the news that it is lot of bird species are there, especially with regard to climate change. As the climate is changing, there was news about the Amur falcon, which is the part of the central flying gateway. Then 30% of land-based carbon is stored in peatland. Peatland, like we said in the definition, peat is a type of, we can say, coal, but with different carbon content. We have the peat, bituminous, anthracite, and we will not go into that. So 1 billion people depend on wetlands. Obviously, they have multiple sources, resources, and not only the biodiversity is there is an inherent connection, the whole ecosystem. There is a whole biodiversity which is enshrined in this wetlands. Then $47 trillion. Now, some of these facts you don't need to know exact. If you know 1 billion people, some of the facts, that will suffice. Then they play an integral role in the ecology of the watershed. Now, watershed, again, this is beyond the scope of the topic. This is in the geomorphology, which needs to be discussed separately. But whenever these terms, these geographical terms or environmental terms, the question, or that, it should strike in your mind, what is this, this image in geography, it should strike your mind, what is exactly a watershed. Then combination of, again, nutrients, more or less the same, the food web, feed many species. Then wetlands, microbes, plants and wildlife, global cycles for water, nitrogen and sulfur. Again, nitrogen, this nitrogen cycle, sulfur cycle, although emphasis has been reduced, but still I have seen recently questions in the Haryana PCS also, which were based on this. Simple questions were there, what bacteria or what organisms facilitate the conversion of nitrogen into nitrite, and then nitrite into nitrate. You might have heard of pseudomonas and the legumes which have the nitrogen fixing bacteria like rhizobium. So all these are general science, and you need to be aware of this. Then one of the most important natural barriers, trap and slowly release surface waters. Now if we take floods, when we talk about floods, we are so used to floods. Okay, Assam mein flood aa raha hai, koi baat nahi hai, it's every year, it happens every year. Mumbai, okay, we say that it is near the coast, okay, to barish hogi, wahan dubega. No, that is not exactly. Now floods are no longer natural. Now we have a term known as urban flooding, which is due to a number of factors, especially the lack of a proper drainage channel, drainage patterns, the concretization, the lack of seepage, like it is written here, they trap and release. For example, how will a flood be caused? Whenever the rainwater, it is not allowed to seep through the surface. This is the concrete or asphalt based road or concrete embankment. Then there is no chance for the rainwater to seep through. It will just start running off, and obviously in any urban area it is going to sometime sooner or later it is going to exceed the capacity. So again, the sea levels are already rising, and moreover there is no seeping into the groundwater. So what happens in wetlands is there are plants, there is biodiversity, there is soil, and there are trees and lot of species. So this loose soil, whatever loose soil is there, it allows the seepage, or it allows the infiltration of the excess water, and that is why the wetland conservation becomes very important. And it is a fact, it is a case study. There is a Mithi river, which is a local river in Mumbai. It is the main river that floods every year. The one important reason is that because the wetlands surrounding that area, they have been destroyed, concretization has taken place, and that is why there is no infiltration. All the surface, all the water that comes in the form of rainfall, it just runs off. It runs off as surface runoff. So there is nothing to hold back the water. And so we have then they play an important role in transport, tourism and culture and spiritual well-being of people. So transport, although we have talked about the inland waterways, the linking, but that also, when we don't have a stable source of collection of water, if we cannot just put our boat in the water and just, proper canals have to be made, proper linkages have to be made, proper channels have to be made. So these wetlands also contribute that. Again, when we talk about cultural and spiritual well-being, you might have heard about one of the wetlands in Himachal Pradesh, very famous, Renuka wetland. So there it is based on the Renuka ji, Renuka ji, this so this spiritual and religious importance they assume a lot. Here also many examples can be given, but we'll just restrict. So now again we have discussed the basic structure. Okay, now a sample question for mains which you can attempt and you can send the answer. And wetlands hold a significant place as an ecosystem in an environment. In the light of this statement, explain the functions of wetlands and discuss the threats causing their depletion. So already we have discussed. Now whatever we have discussed, you cannot straight away apply those points to complete this answer. You need to analyze this question. So this if we break down the structure, what have I written? Making a structure is a very important. So what are wetlands? You can basically, if you want to start with an introduction, you can start with a general introduction how wetlands are important, or you can start with the definition also. Then we have the benefits, like explain the functions of wetlands. So that will benefits, we have the introduction, general wetlands, benefits, and we have to discuss the threats. Additional, now in this question, this is the completing structure, but this measures to conserve them, this is not required in the above question. This is just for your analysis that this part could have been also mentioned in this question. For this question, you just have to, in the introduction, in the body, you have to write some points, both the benefits and threats, equal importance has to be given. You can write it in bullet form or you can write it in paragraph form, the presentation has to be there, and finally you can write the way forward. So this is the exact, this is one of the, because you know there is no model answer in UPSC. I am just trying to motivate you or direct you in what the one of the structures can be. If you know, students can often come up with various ideas, various unique ideas, which you know, so they can also apply them, and you know the answers you can write and send. So this was one of the. Now this is an interesting infographic which I found on the net. So you might have heard of this NOAA, that is National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. It is again under a US organization. Obviously the good things, the foreigners are very good at this anyways. So value of coastal, so again this is just some of the facts which you can use in the essays in GS, you know, to create an impact on the examiner. Because again, if I give you a structure, why I am not giving you a proper answer is intentional, because I need to see your creativity shine out. Every individual, if they say, you know, write about same word about sustainable development, all, you need to get innovative in writing the answers. So some, again we talk about the marshes, mangroves. Then again in this infographic, wetlands act as nature's kidneys. We'll be discussing one of these questions, a similar question, it came in the UPSC prelims this year. Then 23 billion in annual coastal services, 1.5 million gallons. During storms, they can be, have already discussed how they affect the infiltration of the water, and you know they prevent runoff. Then the, of course, when the flooding takes place, like you have been observing recently, there have been you know, Pakistan has also been devastated, and finally it is looking towards India for help anyways. So 8.1 million tons of CO2. Then you know, lots of valuable wildlife like shrimp, salmon and crabs. Then habitat, this is another analysis. So NOAA is one of the organizations which you know, which generates the data. It analyzes whatever the, you know, scenarios are, how the scenarios are changing, how the present climate change is affecting the both the different realms of the biodiversity, the oceanic realm, the land realm, the atmospheric realm. So this becomes important. So time and again this NOAA comes out with interesting articles or interesting videos. So if you happen to come across them, you should pay them a good read. Now some important wetlands which have been in news in the recent past. So this Pantenal Wetland, I've again just for the sake of making this document wonderful, I've pasted some good pictures here. So this is basically the most important point is the location. So here you can see this is Brazil. I've put the flag, and rest of the countries you have to recognize which countries are there. So you can see, okay, I'll tell you, this is basically, this country is Bolivia and this country is Paraguay. These two countries are the only landlocked countries in South America. So again, so this you can see the southwest part of Brazil bordering Bolivia and Paraguay. This region is Pantenal Wetland, one of the very important wetlands. And why was this in news? Obviously because not because it is being conserved, but because it is being destroyed. The habitat is under major destruction. So this needs to be, this can be asked, such questions can be easily asked. Location. Again, one important wetland which needs to be kept in mind is the Everglades. Everglades is at the south. This is Florida, the bottommost portion of United States of America. So this portion here, the bottommost portion nearing the coast, this is the location of the Everglades. So some images again I have put. So these 2-3 locations of wetlands, they are often in news. Then this question which we have already discussed in that NOAA infographic. So this was in 2002 prelims. If rainforest and tropical forests are lungs of the earth, then surely wetland function as its kidneys. Which one of the following functions of wetlands best reflects? Now I'll give you just time. You can pause the video and just look at the options if you have not already seen the question paper, analyze the question paper. Although I should not tell you the answer, but what if you don't know the answer, if you don't know what, because it's like a lungs of the earth, these are like a metaphor. Whenever we use the term, like we use the mouth of the river, we also most of the time in geography we use it in a manner which is analogous to the human anatomy. So similarly we call them the lungs and we call them the kidneys. Now here also, in order to analyze this question, because that is my habit always, although you can directly, if you know the answer, you can directly reach here, but what is the function of kidneys in the human body? They act as a filtration system. They filter out the waste, and that is why you pass them out in the liquid form, then this is a biological concept. So when you know that kidneys, they are used to filter out the pollutants, they are filtering out and making the human body pollutant free. So similarly you can recognize arrive at the correct answer. So if we see the answer, the water cycle in wetlands involves surface runoff, subsoil, then algae form the nutrient base then wetlands play a vital role in maintaining sedimentation, aquatic plants absorb heavy metals and excess nutrients. All these statements somehow in one way or the other, they pertain to wetlands. Okay, they maintain balance, soil stabilization, they provide the nutrient base on which they prevent the surface runoff, they allow the subsoil percolation. But here when we are talking about the filtering out of the pollutants, then the heavy metals and the excess nutrients, they are being filtered out, so we arrive at the correct option. So this is why we tell that we have to read NCERTs, whether it be science till 10th. So this is then this another question was there in the prelims. So again, currently I had told you that 64 wetlands have been in the Ramsar Convention in India have been declared, although I had recently visited the Renuka wetland in the Sirmaur district in Himachal Pradesh, and it was nowhere clear water was nowhere, there was all around algae. So I don't know how conservation is taking place. Anyways, so here we have the Hokera wetland, you can see the table clearly. Renuka wetland, I have already told you. Then Rudrasagar Lake, Sastamkota Lake. So now you have to you need to work on the mapping skills. You just cannot rely on the atlas. Okay, some people, most of the students, what they do is that, okay, this wetland is there, just highlight it, this wetland is there, highlight it. That does not bode well during revision, whether it be during the prelims or the mains. You need to create a basic map, mark some specific sites, and revise them again and again, because there is so much data, so many locations. This we are talking only about the wetlands. Of course, you can be asked to match the national parks with their locations, the biosphere reserves, the tiger reserves, and more are being generated every every other week or every other month. So you need to have a base map, and whatever the recent happenings, recent scenarios are changing, you can just apply that and update your maps. So here again, if you don't know this question, you cannot attempt. Again, what UPSC has started during this is a unique thing that UPSC, we had never expected this, because there is no scope of jugaad in this question. Normally what used to happen was the option was 1 only, 2 and 3, 1, 2 and 3. So if we know we can eliminate 1 or 2 options, or if we know that 1 or 2 options are right, then we can somehow apply by common sense we can eliminate. But here, if you know the options, you can attempt. If you don't know, there's no point in going through. So here again, if you know this Renuka wetland, it is in Himachal Pradesh. Rudrasagar Lake is in Tripura. This is incorrectly matched. This is in Kerala, and Hokera wetland is in, you need to know where it is. Can I'll be showing you the map here, and then you will come to know. It's a very, normally what we do is that Hokera, sometimes we match the term, some place, like it sounds like a place in Punjab. Don't do like this. When I show you a map which will strengthen the ultimate idea is to, you need to create a map and then revise it time and again, so that you can revise it. So again, this I had a map I had created. So here again, the states, you need to, here I have not marked the boundary just to make it more presentable. So here we have the Hokera wetland. This is of course Jammu and Kashmir, if you don't know the states. This is Renuka wetland. This is the Himachal Pradesh. So you might often be vulnerable to confuse it in place of Uttarakhand. So that is not this is the Renuka wetland, and here we have the Ganga and the Yamuna rivers. So here again, in continuation also we will have the Uttarakhand, and here the UP, here it is Punjab, Haryana, the 5 rivers which are there. So these things have to be kept in mind. So again, this is the Hokera wetland. If I delve a bit further into this is actually the valley, the Kashmir valley, which is there. It is located near Pahalgam, just for information. And this Renuka wetland is in the Sirmaur district. This district was also in the news recently. Why was that? Because there is a tribe known as the Hatti tribe, which inhabits the bordering areas, the border of Uttarakhand and Himachal Pradesh. So why they are in news? That is a political reason. Again, it is demanding the scheduled tribe status, and obviously Himachal is going to undergo elections in some time. So the important point you have to remember, not to go into the politics. We want to know about the diversity of our nation. We want to know about the locations of various, in this case the wetlands. So you have to know where this place is. And then we had already discussed this Rudrasagar Lake, this is Tripura, and this Sastam-Kota Lake herein. Another important lake which you are seeing, if you see here, this is the Vembanad Lake, one of the famous lakes in India. Then these 5. Now, when I prepared these documents, 5 new wetlands which took the count, the number from 49 to 54. The additional 10 I have not included right now. So that duty is upon you, that responsibility falls upon you to mark them down. But here the 4 important, like there is a Sakhya Sagar, then in MP, then Pala wetland, it's in Mizoram. Then we have a lot of wetlands in Tamil Nadu. Even the recently declared, the 10 new wetlands declared in the Ramsar Convention, they are also a lot of them in Tamil Nadu. So there is this Palikarnai Marsh Forest, Pichavaram Mangrove, if you have heard of that, then Karikili Bird Sanctuary. So all these important places, again when Sakhya Sagar comes into mind, there was a recently in this location itself, there is a place which was recently declared as the first where the cheetah was supposed to be relocated. So you need to find that also. So these small links you have to connect, and then you can easily arrive at solve any problem. So again, at the end, my message to you is that it is not visible right now. Finish what you start. So whatever you are, if you are starting this topic, if you are following this topic, just read it once. Whether along, if you have already made notes, if you have already prepared the maps, if I am providing you some useful information, some new information, you just need to update that. Otherwise, no need to duplicate your notes. You don't need to again write whatever I have said here. It's just that I have tried to be as precise, as guided as possible, so it becomes easier for you to analyze. And after you have done this topic, it has taken it will take around 1 or 2 hours at most. So wetlands is complete. Now you can move on to the next topic. One last important thing I would require of you, whoever are watching this video, is to keep providing your feedback in case you need to see some more graphics, some more images, or we need to emphasize upon more information, something we have missed out, or we have not covered, which should be. So your feedback becomes very important. So with that, I would like to conclude today's lecture, and